it's not by choice, but they're waiting on more people to show up that can help with true healing and not just treatment of people's symptoms and keeping people enslaved and allowing people to really be free. We're moving into a space when I feel true freedom is about to be experienced. And when I say about to be experienced, that doesn't mean tomorrow. I just mean in my lifetime.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Support Sister. I am your host, Anya Day. Join me as I talk to my good friend Nafis Sabir about what he does as a medicine man, breaking down ayahuasca, psychedelics, and addressing the awakening shift that's happening in the world today, and also discussing his experience with COVID happening and the rebirth cycle and shift that's also occurring. We'll also dive into questioning what's normal and not normal, the importance of reviewing your motherfucking life, persevering through struggles, and not letting the past hold you down, and using movement and sound to move through energies to heal yourself. And we'll also be dabbling in talking about traditional versus non-traditional healing, as well as the importance of knowing who you are. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that this episode serves you in the best way. So I want to introduce the people to my friend Nafis. He is a healer and a galactic shaman on his journey, and helps other people, including myself, through sessions and medicine.
Oh, dang, I didn't even think about sharing it to my page, but it's all good.
I will figure it out. I will figure it
We'll
out. We'll figure it out. So, why don't we talk really quickly about how we first met?
Earth Gang concert at
Gramercy?
Was that Gramercy? Is that the one? I know it was on 14th Street, but I can't remember the name.
Gramercy Theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gramercy Theater, 14th Street. Gramercy Theater, a couple grams of mushrooms and some marijuana.
Medicine. Let's call it medicine.
Well, medicine. Somebody passed out in the front. The crowd opened up so they stopped the concert for a little bit so EMS could come in and get the people out. And after that, there was another, and when the crowd opened up, whenever it closed back, then I was able to get a little bit closer. There had been a guy who had come through, a couple guys, and I shared what I was smoking with him. And enjoying the concert, really good experience, and sharing what I was smoking with him. Then somebody taps me on my shoulder and says that the guy who I had shared what I was smoking with, was he okay? Somebody said, your friend's he okay? So I look back and I see him really woozy, but he had somebody who was with him who knew him. And I looked at that person, and that guy just looked at me with his hands up, and I was thinking, wow, like guy's in a bad way, and his friend isn't even going to help him out. And I looked around the club and where I was at the time, and if I left my spot, and that was one of those times whenever I decided to not get involved, because there was only so much I could have done in order to mitigate circumstances. So I let it be what it was. I knew that there were emergency personnel on site, so I went ahead and let them take care of it, and and turn back to my spot. When I turned back to my spot, lo and behold, I see this woman who's merged in beside me, taking advantage of all the chaos that was going on with the crowd paying attention to this, to reposition herself. And I totally understand, because that's what everybody was doing all night. And then she looked at me and she asked me what happened. And I said, I don't know. Even though I knew full well at the time what had happened, but I didn't really want to blow up my spot.
The
Far as
perpetrator.
yes, what my role was in that dynamic, even though I hadn't really done anything wrong. But again, perception is a lot for initial altercations, because I would have had to do a lot of explaining and give a whole lot of background story, and then just throughout the course of the evening, dancing. Earth Gang came on, great concert, and us talking. You told me that you would come to the concert by yourself. I had come to the concert by myself. It was like a high five for being able to roll out solo
On Valentine's Day.
on Valentine's Day, right? And just move through the world and still have a good time.
Yes.
And not get caught up in all of the hype of what Valentine's Day is supposed to be, as opposed to just being able to be in love with yourself like every day. So
right.
Because that was even though we were there together, in a lot of ways for me, that concert was like a love concert, with
yes,
with that experience.
yes. And it was still lovely to see like the couples there like together in their like doting
yes,
way.
yes. It was
a lot of love vibes going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wasn't bitter even in my singular love pursuit, but it was a thing. So and just the fact that we both, like I said, ventured out into that space solo on that day, I thought was really, really dope.
Yes. And then we got each other's numbers after the end of the concert. And I truthfully did not expect to ever like really talk to you again. I was like, yeah, he was cool, but like, like I don't really want to like talk to people like on an intimate level. And like I never expected our friendship to blossom as much as it did.
Yeah.
Like we literally met earlier this year.
Yeah. That's,
You've seen the most vulnerable of me, and I feel like I've seen vulnerable bits of you as well. So that's been cool.
Yeah, it has been cool. Because I could think that's one of the things too that found a lot of people, once they get past a certain age, they really they make less. When you're in high school, elementary school, you got friends all day. Just my friend is my friend. But once you get older, then it definitely becomes a quality over quantity situation, at least as far as me.
Yes.
And who is in my circle.
Yeah. I don't know why. It's like, is it like, do you think it's like experience through time where you just like know where to like spend your energy and where to just like cut it off? Like, like this isn't my vibe, so I'm just gonna stick to who resonates.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my best friends, and she was saying, speaking as far as the patience that you lose whenever you get older, you can develop patience in some ways, more patience for some things, but you develop less patience for other things, like less patience for bullshit. Your tolerance for a lot of things that really don't serve you, if you're aware of yourself and honest with yourself, you stop incorporating those things and those people, situations into your life. Because I guess I feel like as long as most people only keep things around as long as they feel like they're useful in their lives, and once they've outlived their usefulness, and not to say that in a bad way, it's not the usefulness, like I said, from a serving purpose, not usefulness like I was trying to get over on this person, I was using them.
Yeah. So, but there are still people, I do feel that like that have realized that the friendship that they've had has kind of like expired, but they still hold on to it and like have that old energetic.
Yes. I think a lot of that has to do with the habit dynamic of, you get used to somebody, you get used to their energy. So, and then whether there's some kind of codependency just there too.
Yeah. Because we recently like spoke about how like there's people we know that just like have tons of friends and like are always hanging out with someone and like are afraid to be alone or
Mm-hmm.
afraid to like admit like, yeah, like I don't want to be friends with this person. But there's like this fear of loss. You know
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be good on the other side, but you
Yeah.
have so much fear of cutting that loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's funny.
It is funny. Like there's that kind of thing of resistance to change.
Mm-hmm.
The what's on the and going back into your old patterns, your old habits, the place that you've been comfortable, with your ego, your mind protecting itself, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to letting more of the subconscious step in and take place and, take over, take charge. So,
Yeah. So like really quickly again, um, I want you to share like what it is that you do before we dive deeper.
all right. So, I am a medicine man. I have studied up under I've studied a couple of different practices, and there are other places where I'm still growing my practice. Primarily, I've done the bulk of my work with uh, plant medicine called ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is a very, very powerful, profound, um, old medicine from the jungle in South America, and um, it's a combination of two plants, uh, the chacruna leaf and the ayahuasca vine. And the chacruna leaf contains DMT, dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. Some people call it the spirit molecule, is secreted by the brain. It's secreted by the brain during our dreams or very, very intense visuals. And so it's a naturally occurring substance. It occurs in all kind of plants all throughout nature, and again, like our bodies produce it. So, and the times that the human body secretes the most of it is at the time of our birth and at the time of our death. And even that alone, for me, is pretty profound because at the point of death, you hear people who come back from the brink of death or um, had near death experiences. They often speak of seeing things, seeing their life flash before their eyes, seeing tunnel of light, things like that. And so that can kind of give some of the you can connect the large amount release of DMT to that experience. um and when people have had worked with DMT, whether it's through ayahuasca or through directly by smoking it, and they've also expressed experiences of uh, visuals and connections and experiences that are not in line with anything that we experience as part of our day-to-day human experience. So very, very powerful. So I worked with ayahuasca. Um, the like I said, the chacruna leaf has DMT. The ayahuasca itself has um, a MAO inhibitor, which is
Mhm.
monoamine oxidase. DMT by itself, naturally, if you ingest it, it gets metabolized very, very quickly in the liver. So you have to have uh, MAO, monoamine oxidase inhibitor, in order to give it the long effects. So
Mhm.
that's how this particular cocktail, for a chemical that you normally it's only by like, it's only whenever it's received in the brain that it triggers those experiences, not just by it
Mhm.
being in your bloodstream.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
that it has to get to the brain in order for the experience to process. So um, ayahuasca creates the very, very unique experience to give you time, like time to process experiences that you would probably only have about 15 to 20 minutes if you smoked it, and that you couldn't experience at all normally ingesting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, very powerful medicine. It's been used for centuries in the jungle, been used for many, many things, to treat PTSD, to treat trauma, childhood trauma, adult trauma, depression, addiction, and knowledge of self, just overall healing on a emotional, physical, and spiritual level. People who have had physical ailments that have taken the medicine, they've seen a reduction in those ailments. And just because a lot of times the things that might be causing the pain in your body aren't even directly related to just the body. It could be an ailment coming from the spirit, and it could be an ailment coming from the mind that's creating those places within the body. So I work with ayahuasca. I studied in Peru up under a practitioner who's been working. It's been in his family for generations, at least 3 generations that I'm aware of, that he's expressed directly to me. But I feel like from the village he comes from, I don't know how long, that it's been within the family. But very, very beautiful person, very humble practitioner, very wise, knowledgeable with that medicine. And so I work with ayahuasca. I also work with psilocybin. I've been doing some work with psilocybin for about 6 years. It's also a very powerful, naturally occurring plant medicine sacrament. It just grows in the fields. You usually find it in cow dung, in cow manure.
Yeah.
And so it's not
tasty.
not tasty at all. But for me, that's also one of those things that kind of lends creed at times, just from the simplest way of viewing it, as these aren't recreational things, generally speaking, because they aren't appetizing. Most of these things you wouldn't just take without any kind of awareness of it. I realize that mushrooms, psilocybin, has been given a particular representation, connotation that's associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it really, in small doses, what people engage with as a party substance, in large doses, becomes a really, really powerful sacrament for opening yourself up consciously, connecting more spiritually. And it's also another thing that recent studies and more research has been done into treatment of people with PTSD, veterans, other people suffering from depression. So there's a lot of these substances that are out there that there's just they have a bad rap, largely because some people are just largely misinformed. But there's also the dynamic of things that free people's minds, free people's spirits, free people's consciousness, are things that systems in place don't want us to have access to,
Right.
because then it challenges those systems. So I from a strategic point, I totally get it. I get the whole campaign for making these things look like they're nothing but drugs that have no intrinsic medicinal or
they're dangerous
spiritual value or anything. But it's just not true. And I can say that from my own direct experience. I've also worked to learn some of the shamanic practices of an Andean tribe, the Cato tribe, and the lineage that they practice is the Alta Messiah and they carry a mesa. This is my mesa,
And what is a
and
mesa?
a
Sorry.
mesa is basically an altar that you can travel with and set up anywhere.
Okay.
It's a spiritual extension of myself, that I put together. The things that are inside this bundle, they're things that have particular spiritual importance to me, connections to my, ancestors, my mother, my father, um, and uh, some of the things that I learned, practices that I learned up under this tradition have really served me well as far as helping with healing people, helping with protection, helping with clearing spaces, protecting myself, clearing myself, and just doing healing, energetic work that I'd never been privy to growing up. Growing up strictly from under solely religious practice, and not to say that a lot of religious practices don't have aspects of spirituality where they can talk about laying hands or doing quote unquote miracle work and things like that, but that wasn't my experience growing up. So it was only after I got older that I started to connect with those, connecting those spaces and those modalities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've also uh, learned Reiki. So I do Reiki healing work, distance healing work, and work with medicine songs. And see, medicine songs. I think that kind of covers the gist of
Amazing.
things. I dabble in tarot, and even though I say dabble in tarot, the people I've read for have been really moved, yourself included, by the readings that I've done. But I just haven't focused a lot on that skill set. I haven't focused a lot on the skill set, but it's something.
Yeah, no
So
doubt. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
with all of that, all of those separate pieces, collectively, the way that I combine those is to promote a balance in people. I feel like our bodies, our system is we have three systems that comprise us: our mental, our physical, and our spiritual bodies. And establishing balance between those three bodies um, creates a harmony. And the problems that we might experience emotionally or physically or spiritually can be from the imbalances within another body. It doesn't have to be directly in that space that's causing that particular ailment. So I try to combine all my modalities to create something comprehensive for each individual that can uh, that will respond to that. Because we don't all, I wanted to use the word suffer, but we have different challenges that we all have to face in life. And so, my that's one of the things is wrong with the medicine, the pharmaceutical industry in America right now. There is no one thing fits all. That's why you have this thing that treats systems, and it causes all these side effects, because it's not, you can't tailor make one cocktail to treat everybody's problems.
Yeah.
You know, um, you know, spending time in group therapy might work for one person, but that might not work for the next person. They might require one-on-one sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Ayahuasca might not be the best medicine for somebody. They might be better for them to use psilocybin, or vice versa. So it's really about delving into each individual and understanding what thing would help them out the most.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is there like a quick way to like read the person, or is that just like just through talking to someone that you're like, okay.
a lot of my everything for me starts with the initial kind of like speaking with people in the
Yeah.
conversation, and then where they are, kind of
Mm-hmm.
trying to get an assessment of where they are in their life, on their journey, what things are they open to, and because that can kind of, you don't want to give somebody more than they might be ready for in the moment,
Yeah.
or more than they're ready for in the moment, or just things that are so far outside of their wheelhouse that you begin to put them in a space of challenging their ideas and thoughts and truths about reality. And once you challenge too many of those too quickly within most people, then they buck because it's too much too soon about shit that I don't have any idea about in the first place. So what is that? What is that? What is that? If you get hit with too many whats during your conversation, then it's like, all right, that's too much information. I give you the pieces that you need at that moment. Let you process that. And then, or again, but like I said, see where you are, because it'll let me know how I need to respond to that. I've come across some people that are not, when you talk about plant medicines, they have a hard space of belief within them that says drugs. It's drugs. It's drugs. It's drugs. It's drugs. I know that to just not be true. These things are not drugs. Ayahuasca is not a drug. Psilocybin is not a drug. They're not drugs. So that might be one challenge. That's what, some people, it might be a meditative space and maybe some Reiki energy work or something in those places, because even those things, once people have an experiential reference, then they'll might be open to more of those things because they haven't experienced the peace of meditation. They haven't experienced what it's like for somebody to perform Reiki on them, to actually feel energy work or to feel pain shift. But it's not attached to anything that's been grounded in your reality. It's not attached to Tylenol. It's not attached to aspirin. It's not attached to something that your doctor gave you. It's attached to something that's, like I said, completely out of your realm. And then once the light starts to come in a little bit, then it's like, all right, okay, what was that thing that you mentioned? What was this other thing that you said? Maybe you might be onto something here in these different spaces that I didn't know about, and I feel like once people move into the space of, it's not a hard no, it's not a, then just open to talk about it, then that changes a whole lot of the dynamic, as far as promoting healing and where you're ready to go within your life.
That was amazing. That was beautiful. No, so we're in this amazing shift right now. So where do you see that going? Do you see like a lot of people waking up, or like what do you see happening? And if you can comment on anything like that.
I experience it every day. One of the interesting things I started to notice is that once I started to ask questions, then that's when I started to come across people, more people in that space. And it's kind of similar to other things that we attract to us in life. You go out and you notice a particular color car driving down the street, then the next thing you notice, there's 5 more of those cars, or, that's just one of the simplest examples I can give, but it operates within that same space of, once you start to put out that vibration of seeking something that matches that, then the matching thing starts to make its way towards you. So I've come across as many people, and I've come across a decent amount, even though my circle would still be small compared to the amount of people that aren't in the spiritual space at all. But I come across so many other people that are out there seeking other people in that space that I didn't come across in the same way before I began my own journey. And so for me, that helped me see, and a lot of people were coming into that around the same time. I came to so many people just in the last, 6 years, when things began for me, that something had triggered within them in the last 2 years. Something might have happened last 3 years. Something happened last 4 years. But within this last 6-year period, it was like a dynamic shift that they couldn't quite explain. Some of them, other people, you know, they might have had something directly to attest to it. But I've experienced a shift myself, and I've seen other people moving in that direction as well, to let me know that it's not just me, you know. And I think I find those other people so that they realize it's not just them as well. And once you kind of have that comfort in knowing it's not just a you thing, you're not crazy, you're not, you know, you're not losing it, which it really can make you feel at times like you know, you're losing your shit. But that's just not the truth of it, you know. And by your quest, then you create the circumstances for that quest, you know, all the pieces that you need to line it up.
Yes.
So I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of people waking up. There's a big shift energetically. So many events lining up in my life. So many synchronicities lining up in my life. Just things that happen once I start to move in a particular direction. It's almost like once you make the decision, regardless whether it's for the what people might consider a bad decision or a good decision, but once you make the decision and start moving towards it, then again things start moving back towards you in order for all of it to line up.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to that in a second, but you brought up a point of like when you first start moving in that space, like you kind of feel like you're going crazy. And I have felt that when my awakening happened. I was just like completely alone in New York City, and like I couldn't talk to anyone because no one knew how to help me, and I couldn't even help myself because I was trying to figure out what was going on. And so like, could you provide any insight of that, like to people who are just on their awakening, and make them feel that they're not going crazy?
All right. Well, I say first thing is, there's so many with social media. There's so many groups that are out there of people in that common space. So I didn't pursue a lot of those when I was starting out, but now I see that there's so many of them. It's you know, there's, if you got, you know, anything that seems weird, any questions you got, most of that stuff you can find a Facebook group about. You can find you know, being in COVID in the quarantine, some aspects of things that make more challenging. You know, a year ago, they had so many meditation groups, you know, meetups about everything, meetup about breath work, meetup about yoga, meetup about Reiki, meetup about just about anything you can think of in that space. So whereas some of that is died off as far as the physical interaction, the digital space and people connecting within the digital space has ramped up. So there's a lot of platforms for just searching on Facebook groups. You know, when I'm still doing it myself, as far as trying to grow some of the connections, because on Instagram, when I was doing some of my posts on Instagram, you know, trying to see who to connect with, who to reach, who to communicate with. And it's like, it's not going to be your everyday normal, you know, that there are the people that you're around to support you, your friends, your family, all those things. And I'm sure you will have, most people that are spiritual have people that are very, very close to them that are in that space too. That's been my own personal experience. You know, you usually got a few people that are right in your backyard that you don't even realize, but y'all don't talk about it. So that's one thing. Not being afraid to talk about it. Not being afraid to talk about it in the first place. You're acknowledging that it's even happening, because suppressing it starts to create a cognitive dissonance within you, in that there's a part of you where everything is telling you that there's more to this life than exists. And then there's the other part of you that is, because you can't directly connect with anybody, or the way society speaks about these things, you don't communicate publicly because of how you feel like you'll be viewed, then you box that and you push that all away. And so you don't even allow yourself to be free to explore it the same way a child would explore it, because a child has wonder and curiosity, and it's adults that crush those ideas, those dreams, those thoughts, those fanciful notions, the ability to be able to be in that space of belief in the things that they don't see, and once you move into the spiritual space, it requires a lot of faith and belief in things that you, and I won't even say a belief, because to me a belief isn't a knowing that there are things that are around you that don't exist, and some people that you talk to just aren't going to be on the same freaking page. It's true. And so that is what it is. So for new people coming into that space, it is building up the resolve within yourself to know that you're not crazy, and that it's okay for you to talk about it. Because by talking about it more, you run into the people that are in that space, even those people that might be right in your circle already that you never knew. I have 3 of my closest friends on this planet that have been aware of things for a long time. But it wasn't until I got into that space and I started speaking about it that they spoke to me about their own experiences within that place. So, more people than not have experienced some aspect of spirituality, or some aspect of moving in that space that defies logic, that defies, and it doesn't have to be something so extreme to where, ooh, I saw some shit floating across the room, it doesn't have to be some extreme experience like that. I realized that life gives you like those small things that you could question to make to at least to open you up to the possibility of things, and not just dismiss it as a fanciful notion, which we so often do. It's like, oh, I thought about this person and they called me. Oh, look at that. This thing happened. I was thinking about this and this happened. Oh, look at that. And then they just going about the rest of their life and not think about, all right, tracking how often those things happen. How often do my thoughts manifest? How often does, these actions fall? How often do things just fall right into place? And am I thankful for it? Am I grateful for that process? Do I even acknowledge the fact that it happened, or do I just say, oh, I'm just lucky? And it's like spiritual people know there ain't no such thing as fucking luck. The luck doesn't exist. Probabilities on things and all that. That's a mathematical way to describe odds and things of that nature, but the energy component, it takes no account for the energetic component that goes within that space, because I feel like the energy of belief and trust and faith in the outcome of a situation can trump the probabilities of success in a situation.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like in the beginning, like those things like you mentioned, like where you think about someone and then they call you, or like you just think about getting apple pie and then it comes to you and you're like, oh my God, this is great. Like I feel like the universe is trying to like communicate with you by planting these seeds so it can lure you in and be like, okay, look, bitch, there's a lot more going on. Like now we got you.
Yes.
And that's when the real fun happens.
Indeed.
But not without some pain.
Indeed. A lot of it depends on how big it is that you're trying to expand your belief, that where your experience will fall within that. Because I say people always say things won't come to you before you're ready for them. And then somebody can make the argument, well, what about whenever some people go into these spaces and then they have breaks, or they, they get more than they were bargaining for? I still don't feel that there's a lesson in that if the person can find it. And then sometimes there's also a lesson for the other people around. Sometimes those people serve as examples for other people on how to move within that space. So even within that, it was something that the person agreed to, something I feel their spirit agreed to, their soul agreed to, in order to be that example for other people.
Mm-hmm.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's fine. That's fine. That was beautiful.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Okay. All right.
So how have you been handling the current pandemic?
Current pandemic. Well, for a large bulk of the current pandemic, I wasn't even in the country, so I was fortunate in that regard. I was in Peru, in Terapoto, Peru.
Mm-hmm.
I had just gone down. I was supposed to be down there for 2 weeks, beginning of March, or the beginning of March. I got down March 10th, and we were supposed to fly back on the 20th. They closed the borders on the night of the 15th, and then I was there for 6 months. And so I was in the jungle for 6 months, and I really had an opportunity to grow and do a lot of healing work with a couple of different plant diets. I did a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies. Really got more proficient in that space of being able to operate as a practitioner. And it was something that initially I was thinking considering as a possibility, but I wasn't expecting it to come into something viable for at least another 2-3 years. But that 6 months that I spent there was like an expedited course. It was like a graduate course in in working with the plant medicine. So that was probably the most profound experience of my life, as far as what it did to me over such a short span of time, and the way it shifted my spiritual growth just on a different level. I really came back a different person, and it's still something I'm even coming to grips with and processing. Even day to day, being back here in such heavy energy, in New York, it's such a different vibe here now. People are out still doing their day to day business and things, but the social environment is dancing, roller skating, different certain activities just aren't even viable right now, just because of the state of the pandemic. So the energy is very, very different, very, very different.
Yeah, it's like super dense there, I feel like.
And I'm coming from being in a space where for 6 months I could go out and sit in the river every day. I could go out and, you know, just move around a lot more freely, and have access to really,
Nature.
really nature. Yeah, really nature and healing. And it's very emotionally draining, very, very emotionally draining being back. But
Yeah.
I've started to kind of come back out of my shell and operate more in the public space, even as they're speaking of us going back into another
They're
mini
doing another
quarantine.
lockdown?
Yeah, a mini
Oh
one.
my gosh.
Yeah. I've already heard them making some heavy suggestions on, no public dining and different things like that. So yeah, it's on this. But it's all part of when there's a time of, hibernation and death, and so that new things can be born in the spring and the summer. So
That's true. That's true. Wow.
Solstice is coming up next. The solstice is coming up next month. Saturn is about to go direct. Age of Aquarius, all that good energy. So there's a lot of good energy that's going on, even if the world is
Like
in a
seemingly.
rebirth cycle.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everyone, whether they know it or not, have been on this accelerated course of like
Mm-hmm.
growth. Like even for me, like I am not the same as I was in April
Mm-hmm.
or March when this was first starting out. Like I feel
Yep.
like there's just so much downloads happening and so many shifts happening and like so much self-mastery going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can only do that when like shit is really shut down and like you can really just you let the past catch up to you. You can no longer run, you can no longer distract yourself, you can no longer escape. You are stuck, my friend.
Yeah.
with with cleaning that shit out. And it's not easy for everyone that especially people that aren't on the journey yet.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I can speak from my own personal experience that and I say this, thank God I didn't have any of my immediate family members that I lost during this time, or it didn't impact my family as largely as I know it impacted other people's families. So I'm very,
Yeah.
very thankful for that. So, even as I might say for me, and that's why I put emphasis on for me,
Mm-hmm.
the COVID, this experience and during this time, it allowed me to be isolated to really focus on and hone in on a lot of skills that I needed to. So I feel there are a lot of people that did use this time for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when the world is shut down, giving yourself a chance to reset
Yeah.
and reposition yourself whenever there is a little bit more freedom to move, um, because how some of the demands, depending on your situation, may have shifted.
Yeah.
So so
Uh,
there's still energetically, I still feel there's more to come, but I don't say that from a place of um people being fearful. You always want to be educated about what's coming your way, because it allows you to be able to prepare yourself. And that's, as I say that, it's just about people preparing themselves for more things coming. Everybody's in so much of a rush to get back to normal that they
yeah.
don't even consider our normal wasn't normal. Our country was in a state of sickness. The world is in a state of sickness with a lot of people, just being not well.
Yeah.
Um, so, and it's not by choice, but um it's not by choice, but they're waiting on more people to show up that can help with true healing and not just treatment of people's symptoms and keeping people enslaved and allowing people to really be free.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
We're moving into a space when I feel true freedom is about to be experienced. And when I say about to be experienced, that doesn't mean tomorrow. I just mean in my lifetime. In my lifetime,
Yes.
I feel
Yes.
like there'll be such a shift in ways. We shifted so much whenever computers got into the mix in our
Mm-hmm.
world. We shifted so much whenever
Cell
um,
phones.
cell phones came into the world. So now moving with more people expanding themselves spiritually, it's like a world of technology, a world of spirituality. It's really, the potential is limitless. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of this is going to play out, how it's all going to manifest. Yeah, I think we got some real good shit on the pipeline, real good shit on the horizon. So
How much more we gotta do this, coach? How much more before I can jump back into the Matrix game? I wanna go to the bar. I wanna make out with people.
see, that's it. And I won't even say, and there's nothing. It's not like there's anything like inherently wrong with that thing, but how many people like their desire to get back to normal is just something as basic as I just want to be able to go to the bar, or I just go to the bar and drink, or I just want to go out
Talk
and
to people, strangers.
mm, when I say not the simple aspects of normal that have, and there's I feel like there's a greater emergence of that where more people are feeling the just being able to connect with people and how precious that is. But you got the other people who their version of normal, like I said, goes back to something that's really not a normal state of being in the country. It's not normal for your everyday health and wellness. It's just what we learned. It's just our habit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I wonder how it's all gonna pivot.
Yeah. So but I'm excited. And I know at times when people can wonder how I can be excited during all this time because I love change. I'm not opposed to change because for me change represents growth. That doesn't mean that I don't struggle with change at times. It's not like, I love change and fucking tell me to do some different shit and I'm just, instantly with it. But I've experienced so much change in my life that I was cognizant of in in places I went through and where I came out on the other side. I'm always better. Because especially because I track my experience. My cousin says to me all the time, he says, review, and I quote, review your motherfucking life. That's how he says. He says that, and he also says, be a scientist of your motherfucking life.
Oh man.
But it's so truthful because when I go back and I reflect on how I got where I am today, whether it's a good situation or whether it's something that I'm going through, is a difficult situation for me at the time, then I still try to review how did I get here, and then because even like sometimes the things that are I perceived as bad back then and seeing how they led to me getting where I am now, that was absolutely essential. I can't call that a bad experience because I wouldn't have gotten to this point without that.
Yeah.
And I know some people who get stuck in that space of, this thing that happened to me is just a bad thing and I'm gonna carry it with me the rest of my life and I'm never gonna release it. And at the end of the day, the only person that ends up suffering for that is you. Nobody else suffers for that.
Right.
Everybody keeps living their life because, people might think about you and people might have concern for you and people might care for you and all of those things. But whenever they go to sleep at night or, whenever some other experience trumps your experience, you're the person who's still living with your experience. So why not find a way to be? Why not find a way to be with your experience rather, as opposed to expecting everybody else to be directly responsible for changing the elements of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we are conditioned that like if it's a quote unquote bad experience, then it shouldn't be happening to us and we need to abort that mission as fast as possible because there's something wrong with us because we have to be perfect humans because humans have to be perfect. And I don't think we ever got the tools to alchemize that experience that is perceived as quote unquote bad. And and yeah, it's true. Like we just like kind of run away from it because we weren't taught any better instead of just sitting with it and breathing into it. I was gonna ask you like, so what you had just talked about, like how would you recommend people to like deal with that past story that they're holding on to of so and so happened to me and I'm gonna hold on to it? Like how would you recommend people to like I'm sorry, I know you're thinking, you might be thinking plant medicine.
No. Actually, no. No, actually, that wasn't the
Okay,
thought that
okay,
was sitting
okay,
in my
okay.
head right now. The thought that was sitting in my head right now was that it's such a, because there is not a like a one that, the way, the same way I was talking about how everybody
Yeah.
requires a different thing. There are some ideas that I have about that, because trauma is such a personal thing.
Mhm.
Um, you know, two people can be in the exact same experience that's a traumatic experience, but even the way that they internalize that trauma is different, because it's based off of everything that's unique to that individual, uh, just as a solitary being without any outside experience, all unique. The chemicals, the ratios of the hormones, compounds, all these things that make up that individual, that's a part of that experience for that individual. That weighs in on that in a particular way. The next part is the nurture aspect of it. The what experiences the person have, um, before they even got to that traumatic experience. Is this trauma stacked up on 10 years of other traumas, or is this the first bad thing that's ever happened to me in my life? So that's one thing. So it's hard to go to somebody who might have just lost a loved one and to just give them all these tools about um, forgetting this bad thing, and it's as opposed to somebody who might have just lost a job, and it's just them, and they don't have kids that are dependent on it, or
Mhm.
somebody who, you know, somebody just had their bike stolen. So there's so many different factors within that. But all that being said, um, the a lot of it doesn't go as much into the direct event as opposed to an overall way of your perception of the world. You know, and do you believe that there's balance in the world? Do you believe that um and I feel sometimes the more acute the trauma is, and for the person, some like the balance sometimes is even a more broader perspective on that, because when you get more too personal with that direct experience, then it's, well, no, there's no reason that God should have made this happen, or the universe should have made this happen, or this thing, like looking at it directly as me and my direct experience with an acute trauma, that can be more difficult. So the overall arcing thing of, like, and this part is a part of your daily practice, not just in that moment, but just, do I see balance in the world in general?
Mhm.
Is everything in the world defined to me in terms of good and bad, black and white? Is there gray in any of your interactions? Is there gray in any of your direct interactions? If there's gray in any of your direct interactions, which for everybody there's gray, and but being honest with yourself, are there gray? What gray is in my own interactions? So does gray even in my own interactions? Could there be gray in the balance of the universe, or what? Well, when I say gray is not clearly defined as just good and bad, because of all of the dynamics that work in between it. And for this bad event that happened right here, this perceived bad, this good thing over here that happened, that was the balance for that. Or because of this bad thing, what other good things come out? What are the lessons that are gathered from that experience? All these other things.
Mhm.
We lose people in life. It's natural to grieve. We're caring, feeling um, beings. So that's a natural part of life. Anything that you've connected with in this life, if it's removed from you, there will be experience of the loss of no longer having that connection.
Mhm.
At least from this direct physical perception of that connection, because people who are more deeply in their spiritual space understand that your connections to people never stop, even after they've gone from this earth. Your connection to any life that you could experience on this life realistically won't stop after that life is terminated. But that's not a part of our conversation, so but that more specifically, with you started talking about dealing with like just like for the death aspect or loss of somebody, but just when it comes to like bad situations happening to you overall, the state of mind, what kind of state of mind do you operate in? Are you always negative? Are you always do you what's your general look at the wellness and the well-being and the good energy, or just like flowing life energy in the world? Because we see examples of what struggle is all through the world, and we see what happens when people persevere through struggle and what they can accomplish on the other side of things. So, the struggles that we face aren't struggles that are supposed to stop us, or they're supposed to debilitate us or take away our freedoms, or imprison us or crush us. These are opportunities for us to expand and grow and overcome and be more loving, or be more open, or be more of this, or be more of that. All these are opportunities for us to constantly be more of something. But how do you want to, what more do you want to be in that space? The easiest place is to be more in sorrow, to be more in grief, to be more in anger, to be more in this isn't fair, to be more in victim, to be more in that. It's easy to be more in that. It's more it's more, it can appear to be more challenging to move into something that's completely in the direction of what you're already naturally resting in. It can be very, very counterintuitive, but there's so many simple techniques even with that. Dancing, music, music therapy, dancing, there's a reason why those are actually listed as therapies, because traditionally they've shown positive results for centuries. That you can dance your pain away. You can dance your sadness away. You can dance your fear away. You can dance all these negative things away. You can sing all these things away. You can use movement and sound to move you in and out of all kind of different spaces and energies. We've all had that experience where maybe especially being older, after you had songs that you heard as a kid. There was a song with the person or somebody that you had a crush on, something like that. And whenever that song pops up, it can put you back into that energetic space of that. You're reminiscing and the memories come flooding back in and all of that stuff. Chemical response, just like that, just based off of music. You get up, you hear a song that comes on and makes you want to dance. You get up and you dance, and all your energy is focused in that. Energy shift right there, just like that, just based off two things. And the way the mind works, you can fool yourself. They talk all the time about fake it till you make it. That's real shit. You can fake your way into being happier because eventually the more you fake your way into like happiness in those spaces, and this is not by just by walking around and putting a fake smile on. No, there's actual work that is still being done with this fakeness. Throw on some music for 10 minutes and just dance and don't think about anything, nothing, any of what you were thinking about. Put on the song that's the happiest song you ever heard in your life and just dance to it for 10 minutes and see what that does to you on the other side of it. You might break down and fucking start crying in the middle of it because of how overwhelming the sadness was before you started dancing, but in that release by the movement of it. But then that's beautiful. That means you just help promote healing within yourself, as opposed to just staying there and letting yourself be a victim of your circumstance, to be a prisoner in your own freaking mind. It's wild. But again, these are just like simple things that we don't talk about whenever we promote healing and wellness in our country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's just like so easy to forget. It comes so natural as you do as a child, like that is what the first thing you do and gravitate to is play, hide and seek, tag. Your
Yeah.
body is in motion
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yep.
constantly.
Constantly.
Making up songs, dancing to the beat of your own drum. And we
Mm-hmm.
just somehow just lose that and we
Mm-hmm.
just forget about it. And like, we're like, nah, that's childish. I don't want to be childish. Like, I have to be an adult. And like, maybe I need to have like a hard drink of
Mm-hmm.
alcohol.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Damn. This makes me really want to dance. I got so sad while you were just talking about that because I was like, fuck, dude, that's real shit. Like, and I think we
It
just
is.
all need to dance.
It's medicine. That's one of, and that was, when you start talk about things. It's been a few different places. It's not just in one spot that I've heard that. In this tradition, the Alta Messiah tradition, she's real big on that about getting up and moving, move the energy, just dance, let it out, throw on something, just let it out, whatever, in whatever way that happens. I've been to a Tony Robbins event before. Same thing. Get out your seats, move it, shake your ass. There's been studies that show that there's a particular way you jump up, and just by moving your hips and moving your ass, it actually promotes happiness. Like, that's real shit. So, but again, these are simple things that, like I said, people don't even know. Something that you could stand up and do for 5 minutes that could help change your whole friggin' day.
Yeah, shake it up. Interesting. Wow.
So, for people in that space, it is a conscious effort to want to change your state. It has to be there.
Yeah.
The same thing with healing. People think that medications heal them and all that stuff. Medications don't heal people. Desire to heal. Nothing can heal you if you don't have a desire to freaking heal. Say it works. It works in. It works in. I call. As a matter of fact, I should start calling that shit non-traditional medicine. It works in non-traditional medicine, and it goes the same way with holistic medicines, and that the medicine can do so much, but again, the desire has to be there within the person. You have to be thriving and want to heal, because people can be resistant and create blocks for themselves all the time that prevents that healing. So be receptive and be open to wanting to be in a better space.
Yeah. And it's scary because I feel like a lot of people don't even think that there is an exit. And
Yes.
they think that their story is the only story and that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
the last 5 years is how the next 5 years is going to have to play out. And,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's just like a loop.
Yeah. 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 It's we get caught in those cycles, those patterns of behavior, because all of that stuff is just based off of patterns built on top of patterns built on top of patterns. And you could overlay the same pattern over to on different situations. And it's only by like tracking that stuff that, and really being, like I said, really knowing who you are, and learning what things trigger you, learning because some people, even with tempers and anger, something, I just have a temper. This is what I do. I just get angry, and it's like some cool shit or something, like it's a fucking badge of honor. It's not a fucking badge of honor. It's ridiculous. To debase yourself and to have somebody be able to incite you to control your responses and your emotions and all of that. It's like, who's the person that's in control, at the end of the day. So yeah, to buy into that way of being is makes no sense. That's a conditioned thing. That's something that somebody learned early, or at whatever point they learned, whether it's early or late, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody checked them and nobody challenged them on that, and about that being a proper way to being, people enable that. So because people continue to enable that, then the person just keeps doing that. It's the same way whenever nobody wants to be ostracized, nobody wants to be rejected.
Yes.
Right? So and it's only through, we've seen it time and time historically in many situations, whether it's boycotting something or whether it's somebody being with everybody turning their back on them.
Cancel culture.
Yeah, exactly. Cancel culture. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to be that person that is like removed
From the
or
tribe.
blacklisted from your tribe. Exactly. So, but whenever, but without enough people co-signing on that space of like just refusing to acknowledge certain types of behaviors being cool, or even offering up methods of healing those things, then all that stuff does keep getting allowed to perpetuate.
Yeah. I think also like comes down to just like accepting, okay, I have this anger issue. Like I see it now, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to judge it. I I
Mm-hmm.
I love that I have this anger issue because I see that emotion now and I can hug it now, and slowly but surely like we can like alter it, but we got to
Mm-hmm.
catch it first.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So that's the
Yeah, very
biggest
true.
thing I learned like this year is I create these like uncomfortable feelings because I'm judging for having those feelings rather than just accepting them that they are just feelings and there's nothing wrong with having those things come up.
Yeah, like even in those spaces, the person isn't inherently wrong for the fact that they have their anger. I'm not saying that.
Right, right,
By no
right, right,
means.
right.
I want to clear. I should clarify that. Is the way you choose to portray that to other people. That
Yes.
that behavior and the condition responses and behavior. That go with that thing, because we all experience those things. Even the most, if I could be the most Zen monk on the planet, but if you walk up to me and slap me in my face, that initial response is gonna be like, even if for the monk it's only 3 seconds, and for me it takes 5 minutes to process, to get to the space of not retaliating. There's still, it's just the window gets smaller and smaller whenever you move into particular places between the emotion and the reaction, the emotion and how you choose to display it, the emotion and taking an assessment of my situation, and picking the most effective way to be in that situation, rather than just the thing I've always done, or the thing
Yes.
I always saw done, or whatever. This is just how I grew up, so
Yes.
accept it. The fuck is that? So, because the reality of it is that, because whereas that can be accepted in some instances, we see so many other instances whenever, oh, this is just how I was raised, is not accepted at all. At all. Not accepted, not understood, not acknowledged, not any of that. So, it's,
Yeah.
in all things being equal, then let's keep it all equal.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nafis.
Thank you, Shawty.
Where can people find you?
On Instagram, I am FM Another Planet. On YouTube, I am From Another Planet 23. And on Facebook, I am Nafis Sabir, Nafis Sabir.
Anyone listening, this is the man to go. This is my shaman. I will share him with you, I guess, selflessly. Oh my God, such a G and such a pleasure. I am your support sister, just bringing resources and
Likewise.
just great things. And if you have any questions and you need help and you want a journey, either reach out to Nafis. He can hook you up with his aforementioned links. Reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Anya Day, your support sister at supportsister.com. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you all. All right. Good job.
Bye.